Welcome to Not Your Average Neighbor, the podcast celebrating inspiring individuals and the amazing work they do in our community. I'm Ann Roshar, your host, inviting you to join me as we shine a light on stories of resilience, connection, and good news. Let's build a neighborhood that uplifts and inspires, one story at a time. Howdy, neighbors. It's Ann Roshar, your hostess with the mostest of Not Your Average Neighbor podcast. And before we get started with today's guest, I just want to do a little shout out. I attended the U conferences that Rena Jensen and Kendra Eris were talking about a couple weeks ago. I just am fresh off of that evening and day experience, and it was really fun. They always put on such a really good content filled conference, and there was everything from stories of you where people shared their brief history, and then there's also keynote speakers. So I want to shout out to my keynote, one of the breakout stars that I heard from yesterday, Tara Allen. She will actually be a guest coming up here soon. Tara, if you're not a networker in Cedar Rapids, you may not know Tara, but Tara is everywhere. Tara is a guru of it all. So I'm excited to talk to her, and she's going to give us, I feel like, a little bit of background of her life, but also get into the AI of it all, because she is a wealth of knowledge. And for those who aren't, it will be spectacular. So again, this podcast is where we share good news from good people and hear stories that remind us how strong, resilient, and connected we all really are. And today I'm sitting down with Amber Hoff, who many in the Cedar Rapids and Marion area know from her years as a therapist and founder of Sound Mind Therapy. Amber has spent her career helping people work through trauma, life transitions, and some of the hardest moments they'll ever face. But now she's transitioned into more of an HR role. So she's going to give us a little background on her therapy journey and how to transition to a new career, but also like thrive at that new career, and also give us a few tips on, how to get through the days, because we all definitely need help. And as I said, I'm sprinkling in mental health therapy for us this season, just so that we can kind of reset, recheck, whatever it is that you recalibrate, whatever it is that you need to do to realize that the world is a shit show, but we have still got to make it through. So please help me welcome Amber Hoff.
Hello, Ann. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. I always like to introduce how we know each other. And so I believe that my fabulous friend, Lisa Rowe, and you were networking, and you were networking in Marion a few years ago. And you were like, I need a realtor. And she's like, I know just the person. So that is how we met. I so appreciate that Lisa, my lovely Lisa, invited me into meeting you. And then I got to help your family not only sell your house, but upsize. And although the stove was a journey because of COVID.
What a time that was.
And you could see the former owner's house on the hill, and you're like, give me your stove.
Right. The app you have heard of an air fryer was what? Do you remember that? Where that realtor asked, have they heard of an air fryer? Like, yes, but we would like the stove, please.
Right. Just bought a really nice house that doesn't have a stove that works. So, and they had the resources. Let's just say that they could have, but getting apart in the middle of a pandemic was the route they wanted to go.
Yes. We pick our battles. interesting.
That's right. That's right. Well, I immediately thought of you when I, again, was thinking about, just a little mindset recheck, or just some sort of like therapy, not quick tips, but like also there are things we can do to
Mhm.
get out of the funk sometimes. I feel
Yeah,
like Mercury is in Gatorade right now, which I
all the
don't know.
time. All the time. I think it lives there.
And I feel like I've been a little bit glitched the last few days. Like I have a deal not that's weighing me down, and I really wanted to go and focus at that conference, but life just, and then my negative voice in my head, Tina is who I call her. Tina was telling me how dumb and stupid I was. So I am this little therapy more than anyone probably right now.
Sure.
But we're going to start first before we dig into my mental health issues. we're
Girl,
going
join
to
the club, man.
we're going to dig in and just get to know a little bit more about you and how your journey into, becoming a therapist started, because everyone has a story, right?
Right. Well, actually, my journey into being a therapist is pretty boring. So there wasn't much of a hero's journey or anything like that. It was been told that people just easily talk to me. And I would like always the joke that anytime we would go anywhere, someone would randomly end up telling me like a really personal thing. And I would just be like, wow, didn't need to know that, but thank you for sharing that. And so the two, of course, when you're in college and everything, you go out to the bar and they'd be like, oh, somebody's crying with Amber again. And I'm like, I didn't do anything. Like, I was just minding my business. But so I ended up getting my bachelor. So I actually originally went for chemistry. I really love science. So that was in college. I wanted to be a chemist. And I found that I really, stubborn 20s, disliked someone telling me exactly what to do. And so I was like, I like ambiguity. So I went into psychology. I definitely got what I signed up for. So the psychology thing, you really don't make any money unless you have a master's degree, as it turns out. So I went and I got Mount. We actually ended up getting a program in marriage and family therapy, and they were piloting it. So I was like, all right, let's do it. So I became a marriage and family therapist. And that was in 2013. So it's been a while, but my first job was at a community mental health center. And I was very green. And so you go into that and you're blindsided. You're like, wow, I am not equipped to deal with any of this stuff. And I was one of the full-time therapists. So 40 hours a week of client after client after client and feeling terribly like lacking resources to be able to handle this stuff. And then, you kind of get your feet under you as a therapist a little bit and you're like, okay, wait a second. I'm seeing trauma. I'm seeing trauma of long-standing of people who they just don't know how to handle it. I mean, they're lacking resources. They lack availability to get help. And a lot of the therapists lack the training to actually be able to really help them deal with it. Actually, one of the more interesting things is I actually got a lot of trauma clients from the flood of 2008.
Really? Really?
That many years afterwards, yeah, I had like a sizable amount of people who, found that they suddenly couldn't, they were avoiding baths. They take a shower, but they didn't want to sit in any body of water. And it's actually very sad. So yeah, the next thing after that, I just decided like, I'm going to figure out how to treat the trauma, not just the symptoms around the trauma. And so I started doing training for EMDR, which is eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. It's a very intense therapy, but I did that at my own private practice after I left, which was lovely because I didn't have to see 40 clients a week. I got to see enough that I could take care of myself and take care of other people. So I did that, opened my practice in 2017. So it's been almost 9 years. Yeah, 9 years. Mm-hmm. So I did that for a long time. So actually, more on the personal and the resiliency thing you were talking about, trauma is interesting. And it's a very intense therapy. You deal with a lot of intensity. But, and a good plug here, I don't know if you've ever heard of Gabor Mate. So I definitely recommend reading some of his stuff, watching some of his stuff. So he's a doctor.
And what's his name?
Gabor Mate.
Okay. How do you dispel that for me so I can share it with people?
Sure. So Gabor and then last name
Okay.
Matte. Yeah. So
Okay.
he doctor and fascinating to listen to. And so he wrote the book When the Body Says No. And so that book basically talks about what happens to our body physiologically and psychologically when we force it to do something that is hurtful. So it can be something as small as, I don't want to do this, but I'm going to force it. It could be going to a job that you hate. It could be going to family events when you really have a bad relationship with your family. So basically, it's about the negative impacts of the body when you constantly force it to do something that hurts it. So I actually watched a breakout session for him at EMDRIA conference, so a trauma conference. And an interesting thing happened, and that it turned a light bulb on for me. And so Q&A at the end, fascinating. He's talking about when the body says no. I'm here for it. And so this therapist raises her hand and says, I have a question. I have been a therapist for, I think she might be under 10 years. And she said, I did have a condition before, but all of a sudden I'm having this gastrointestinal problems that I never had. And doctors can't seem to figure out what's wrong with me. And so she's like, do you have any insights? And granted, he's not a therapist.
Right.
So he's a doctor. So he very bluntly looks at her and says, I really don't know that you should be a therapist anymore.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Result was tears.
Yeah.
And everyone just kind of went, I can't believe he said that.
Yeah.
But for me, my brain went, interesting. So I'd been a therapist at that time for only about maybe 7 years. So I have a condition called endometriosis. It's a big word. And basically what that means is that my uterine tissue grows outside of my uterus, which is very painful. So as I was a therapist, I went through 3 surgeries to have it removed from my body in a span of 5 years. So at the third one, my doctor, who I love, and I love her because she can be blunt with me because she knows I can handle it. She said, I know you like this and I know you're good at it. I think this job will kill you. Yeah. So I took that and I went, oh no. And here, I'm a therapist, obviously. My self-care, fantastic. I know the things. I have to practice it. I couldn't expect my clients to do what I'm not doing at home. I thought I was taking great care, but my body said, you're not though. At that point, it became pretty obvious I needed to kind of balance a little better. So that I went and I got my HR certification and started adding HR consultation to what I was doing through Sound Mind. So I could still see clients, but I was basically just kind of giving myself a chance to solve problems in a place that wasn't trauma filled. And so it was like, things like, some people like to say this is so boring. I love it. Compliance, organizational effectiveness. I love that stuff. People strategy, hiring, onboarding, making policies and procedures that make people more mentally healthy at work. Because we know that when our workers are happy, they do better work. So it seems like it isn't a novel idea, but it's a novel idea.
Right.
So that's kind of how I got into that. And now currently I'm getting my MBA because some businesses seem to think that I just want to come in and do therapy with their people. And believe me, I am more than capable of shutting that off if I want to. But so that's how kind of I got into and through and on the other side of that. And I mean, it's been almost 5 years since my last surgery. So I think my doctor might have been right. I won't tell her.
Right.
Do this podcast because she'll let me know what she did, but she was right.
Well, I have a similar doctor relationship with my wonderful doctor. She always, she was my mother's doctor as well. So my mother's no longer here. So she knows that sometimes, although we're not far in age, she can be, mama and tell me what to do. And I'll be like, not today, Satan. We're good.
No,
we're good today.
I don't need to hear it. Thanks.
And so it is incredible. I wonder how many other therapists get into this health related issues and have that realization that maybe it's do I do it. I'm telling you, yesterday hearing stories of resilience is so uplifting, but it's also like makes my body tired and a
Yes.
little agitated because I want to help. And
Right.
you know, and so that, I mean, that's probably why I'm down too with this deal, because I just help, I want to fix it, and there's nothing I can do. I just have to sit here and wait and
Hmm.
wait and wait and wait. And so, that's why I always compare real estate and therapy in any way other than, sometimes we have to be the those that they need to hear, have
Right.
to tough love our clients sometimes. And, I probably don't do it in the most brilliant way that makes them like stop and, pivot. But I also feel like that's why I love my job. That's why I'm really good at my job, is because I want the best for every person that I work with. I want you to be so happy. I was devastated when you didn't have an oven that worked.
I
Uh,
found it more comical because it fits so well into like the whole 2020 trope, right? Like it was just so expected. It's
yes,
2020 and everything
yes.
is terrible.
Yes, yes, yes. Those of you outside of Cedar Rapids area, in August of 2020, we had what is called a derecho, and that like destroyed a lot of our community. And it is a land hurricane. I remember telling my husband and son when we were all sitting at home watching the rain, and it was going sideways. And I'd been in a hurricane many, many moons before. And I said, that looks like hurricane rain. Like that's not sideways rain is not normal in Cedar Rapids. And so you probably got out at the right time for
I
therapy,
know.
because
Oh,
there are still people who are triggered by wind and thunderstorms and all of it. So you probably really did do yourself a favor.
actually, yeah. I mean, during COVID, actually, I was still only doing therapy at that time. And that was so we had obviously COVID, but we had the derecho that same year. And I was actually one of the co for the city of Marion's COVID response team. So, I was able to get mental health resources out to the community during that time. But I got a lot of EMDR clients specifically around COVID. They lost somebody, they thought maybe they were the one that spread it to their loved one that passed.
Mm.
There was a lot of especially people who got it really bad or had long COVID. I did a lot of EMDR around that because I can't lay down because I can't breathe. So now I have a panic attack every time I feel like I can't breathe. So there was a lot of that.
Mhm.
The derecho itself, I mean, we got blindsided. So I had a lot of clients that were out driving, hiking, you know, sitting at work, not able to get a hold of their spouse. They had a big tree in their yard and their kids were, because it was still not school time, the kids are at home alone. I can't get to them. So there was a lot of that came out of that.
Yeah, my poor father-in-law was literally blocks from his home and couldn't see. So he
Mhm.
had to sit in his car and wait for
Yeah.
this storm. And it wasn't a short storm, it
No.
was ridiculously long.
Yeah.
My family was ribbing me because we had recently made a trip to the Sam's Club because toilet paper was low, and I was like in the corner with all the toilet paper on me, and they're like, you are such a
Time.
drama queen. And I'm like, oh, listen,
What a time.
this house may not be here soon, and I am going to be protected. But yeah, it was crazy times. I don't know a lot about EMDR. That's so, can you tell me a little bit more? Can you dig into that a little bit for people who also may not know a lot? And my friend Liz, who was on just a couple weeks ago, was stating it's probably better for people who kind of know how to talk their way out of like talk to a therapist in a way that, you know, like I'm not going to give you all my problems because that's just too deep. So she said maybe this would be a good alternative for those people who are not buying the whole therapy thing.
Yeah, actually, I can kind of go into a couple alternatives for people who maybe don't like the idea of just sitting down and talking about all the bad stuff,
Themselves.
right? Or,
Right.
you know, they're just, it's too defended. You know, a lot of us, we have to set up our defense mechanisms. And so to just go into a stranger's office and say, well, you've got about 45 minutes to tell me your deepest, darkest secrets, and I'm going to send you back to work. It's a little too scary. So actually,
And I
EMDR,
cry the whole time. I always cry. That's the only time I can cry, you know?
exactly,
It's like I don't give myself time to cry. So like, so
to be vulnerable, yes.
mhm.
So, you know, the traditional talk therapy is, you know, you're getting things like the traditional. So CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, is a traditional therapy. You talk about kind of the way you see things, the way you think about things, your belief systems. You know, could we think of this problem differently? Can we change your behaviors? You know, that works for a bit of people, but some people, there's a little too much there. So EMDR was created by Francine Shapiro completely by accident. She discovered it entirely by accident. Um, and I believe it's been a long time. I believe the story was something like she was thinking of a difficult problem, and she found that as she was walking, her eyes were kind of moving back and forth, and she felt better at the end of her walk. And so she's like, "Oh, that's weird." So as you know, we typically do way back when in psychology, we experiment on our friends and family, colleagues until we figure out this actually is something. So eye movement is sort of the primary thing here. And I mean, I won't do it because it's obvious, you know, it would be really obvious, but it also great on a therapist's shoulder as it turns out. So rotator cuff injuries, man. But
Really?
yeah, because I mean, you're moving your hand constantly for like a span of like,
Oh,
you know, and get very brief breaks, and it's constant. So PT person was not a fan of me at that time, but um basically what we do is we sit down and we just kind of create a like, some people come to me specifically for EMDR. They're like, I realize I have a trauma history. I realize I have PTSD. I need to work through this thing. There's something coming up that maybe not be like a level 10, but it's interfering with my ability to do my job or to be a parent. And so they come to me specifically for that. But a lot of times what would happen was just sort of like organically come out. You know, I'm talking to a client. I'm like, yeah, man, this seems to really stuck with you. And, you know, do you feel like you're in a position where you could really let's remove it. Let's remove the bite from it. It's not going to erase it from your memory, but it will make it so that you can think about it as something that happened without a whole body reaction. So we're not exactly sure. I mean, there's theories out there all over the place of you know, what causes trauma, what causes PTSD. I've had clients where, you know, they've been in hundreds, maybe 5 or 6 accidents, car accidents throughout whole life. But why did number 6 cause a PTSD diagnosis? It really was just a fender bender. That doesn't make a lot of sense. So, you know, there's some idea out there that it's how taxed our brain is when we experience the trauma, because our brain needs to process it through multiple neural pathways. And if those are taxed, if you're sick, if you're high stress, the brain can't do what it's supposed to do. So basically, it stores the memory in a way that is not ideal. And so that's where we get PTSD. So EMDR's thought process is that by moving our eyes rapidly back and forth, we sort of simulate almost a REM cycle of sleep, which we know to be our problem solving sleep. So if you're fully awake, you're not hypnotized. If you're hypnotized, I'm doing something wrong. So the person's with me the whole time. So we basically bring out, I have a sheet that I go through, and we identify like, what's the worst part of the experience? Do you feel anything's in your body? How distressful is it? And then I tell you, bring it up in your mind, and then I move my hands. And so it seems like witchcraft, but I've seen people come in and they say, I've dealt with for 15 years. And I have nightmares, and I watch them walk out of my office. It doesn't bother me anymore. I have no reaction when I think of it. But I will say it's very intense. People cry
yeah.
a lot. People shake. I've had people where I've had to walk them down through a panic attack in the middle of it. it's really intense because it brings it up so almost as if it's happening right now. People can sometimes even smell things. I smell the cologne of my attacker. I feel the sun on me during this event. I can hear the crunch of the car in the background.
Yeah.
So it's very vivid, intense, but going through it, every time you do it, it's a little less intense and a little less intense. And the brain gets reprocess that memory, the reprocessing part. We reprocess the memory and store it as a sequential event that just happened rather than a cascade of panic and emotions and stomach aches and headaches. And so it can be a lot of different problems. I've even done EMDR on a nightmare before that just sat with somebody and they just couldn't shake it. So it doesn't have to be like a sexual assault. It doesn't have to be, a tree fell in my car while I was in it. It can be something like, I actually did one on someone who had a really a traumatic training experience, and it made them anxious to go to the bathroom in public. So they're like, I realize this is hard for me and I need to fix it. So
wow.
Yeah. So it can, was it a level 10? No, it was interfering with their lives. So that's going to be more intense than talk therapy, but I could get theoretically 6 months of talk therapy gains in 6 sessions, maybe 3 sessions of EMDR, and you don't have to maintain it. There's no things you have to do. Your brain's just restored it. So it's not like you have to go home and do homework. You have to go home and read books. You have to go home and do, worksheets, and it helps.
Journaling and all of that. Yeah.
It helps if you have good stabilization techniques because it continues outside of therapy, but it's, and I had clients too, where they didn't want to tell me what was happening, but I didn't need to know. All I needed to know is the memory while I'm doing it. So people are very, very defended on, I don't want to tell you this. It's okay.
Right.
Another, yeah. It gets it out. Right.
Right.
I don't need to hear it. You don't need to tell me. You don't even have to verbalize it. But as long as it's moving, we're making progress. So that is a little different than talk therapy. But it requires a really strong relationship with your therapist because you need to be able to trust them that if it gets to be too much, they can help you. Or if you start to dissociate, that you can feel like you can kind of go through your worst moments in front of somebody and not be judged. So that one is big. Now, I will say, I'm going to plug this one because this was really for me. So I was in a car accident in 2021, and it was not a bad car accident by any means of the word. My car was salvageable. It was fine. I was rear-ended while at a stoplight by a teenager who was distracted by a girl in shorts in the rain. I'm not sure I bought that excuse. I think she was in her phone, but neither here nor there. And I was fine. I went to work and I called my chiropractor and I said, I think I have whiplash. And she went and she took a thing. She's like, oh, you do? We'll fix it. But I started noticing that my brain didn't feel right. I was mixing up words. And as a therapist, that's sort of important to not do that. I was forgetting my client's history. And I was like, okay, this seems not. And then I noticed I was having sensitivity to sounds, was really irritable. And I started getting like, you know me, I have like an angry bone in my body.
No,
but I was starting to get really angry. And the kids were like, that's not mom. So I went to my doctor and my doctor was like, oh, you have a closed brain injury. And so she wanted to put me on antidepressant. And I was like, not depressed. Please don't put anything in my brain. What can I do? So they referred me to a neurologist. And because it was still post-COVID time, they could get me in 6 months. So I was like, well, that doesn't help. So my mentor, Randy Lyle, he's no longer here. I believe he moved to Belize. Imagine that.
Can I go, Randy?
All right. He provided neurofeedback. So neurofeedback is interesting because that requires zero talking. You don't have to talk. If you don't want to, you could, but so it literally is just training your brain to have more, like it's rewiring your brain effectively. You're training it how to, like what you'll do originally in it is you do a whole brain scan. They put you in the cap and you kind of look like all crazy and stuff with all the things coming out of it. It tracks your brain activity. And then it compares your brain activity with somebody who has a normal brain. And then they say, well, here's where your brain is deficient. And so what the interesting thing is that I had my brain scan And every complaint I had showed up in that brain scan. She's having problems with sequential planning. She's having problems with short-term memory. She's having problems with emotional regulation. All of these things to be completely true. And he, over the span of, it was about 40 sessions, they occurred twice a week. It 100% reversed all of the problems I was experiencing, and I didn't have to talk about it at all.
Wow.
So, yeah. So it was kind of interesting because I had obviously clients at the time. I have to make a living, so I'm still doing therapy. So my clients were watching me go through this process of neurofeedback, and I should have asked him for a cut of all of the business he got. They're like, I want that. Like, I want this for, you could go for ADHD, anxiety. You could go for depression. You could go for PTSD. You could go for, I'm just an athlete and I need a brain that functions really quickly.
Yeah.
It was pretty amazing. I wasn't insomniac until I did that. And I'm not sure I can make it past like 11 o'clock anymore. It's just,
oh my gosh. I am totally asleep by 11, but so are there professionals in the area if people sound like that's?
I think Randy gave, someone bought his from him. I don't know that it's necessarily called the same,
Right.
But I'm pretty sure someone bought it and they're doing neurofeedback in the area.
Okay.
It's pretty amazing, pretty life-changing. I went through it, and then my husband Justin went through it, and then my kids went through it because I saw how cool it was and how well it worked. At the height of the brain injury, I actually had to use Siri to get me home because I forgot how to get there.
Oh, honey.
I couldn't even remember, like, Justin would play a song and he'd be like, what song is this? And I'd be like, I don't know. But by the end of the neurofeedback, I regained almost everything, but some memories quite a few years ago I lost, but for the most part, everything, I remember all my music. So that's nice. So
yeah, exactly. I'm fascinated by that. So you got in a little fender bender and it rewired your brain?
It caused a closed brain injury. And it didn't show up as a brain bleed or anything, but he was explaining that it just, it hit here. So I hit back and then I hit the steering wheel. So I hit in two places. Oh, I just totally blurred myself there. But it actually, it's weird because you would think that something like that wouldn't
do what it did.
Yeah, and she was completely fine, and it just ruined me. So it's crazy. If you didn't know,
I'm so glad you found the answer, to that when you found Randy, because that would be devastating.
If you didn't know that existed, that would have been a long time.
Yeah, exactly. It would have, certainly. Incredible. Well, now again, you are doing consulting more, primarily for HR, kind of just to be that HR person. And so give us some things, and if anyone out there is listening, to how they would find you regarding your services. Sorry. And kind of give us like another lowdown of what you focus on as an HR consultant.
Sure. So right now it's just me that's doing it. So it's HR consultation, but I have gone in and provided mental health trainings for places. Just as I've done work on burnout. I'll go in and I'll do a burnout training, especially when the weather starts to get gross, because we live in Iowa and it's gray for 3 months out of the year. So
seems like longer.
Right. January is the longest 10 years of the month,
yes.
Right. So it's crazy, but I do a lot of that. I was an embedded HR consultant at a company for a little while, and I did stuff like just making their onboarding a little more human, making sure that people feel welcomed and they have all the information. Because let's just be honest, like getting into a new career, a new profession is really anxiety provoking. And if I can, or the company can make it not as anxiety provoking, we know that people are more likely to stay when their onboarding experience is strong. So do a lot of that stuff, policies, procedures, I'll do a lot of making the performance evaluations more human and less clinical. I've done, some individual coaching. One of the more interesting things is COVID really kind of altered a generation. So I had to do actually for a while some weird soft skills building with the younger generations of like, you have to change the toilet paper roll when it's empty. Like that's you know,
That's an expectation.
yeah, it is. COVID really changed things. And so I'm also a mental health and a business consultant with the Highline Training Institute. So you can go through that directly contacting me through the Amber Hoff soundmindtherapy.com, or you can go through Highline Training Institute. But either way, that's how you get a hold of me.
And you're on LinkedIn as well, correct?
Yep.
Yeah.
Get through me there.
Highland Training Institute, is that what you
Yep.
said?
Yep.
And are they based in this area or?
Yeah, yes, and well, one is I believe he's still a professor over at UNI. He may be by now, but so he's here. The other one is down in Louisiana. So.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's incredible. Well, I'm so glad that, I mean, obviously it's scary and hard, especially when you think that you found what you're going to do and you're really good at it. And then you're like, but my body doesn't like it. So you have to transition. So that is amazing. One, like I said, right now, the world seems like a dumpster fire a lot of days, and you are equipped and smart enough to stay off of the social medias. But for those of us who, I have to market myself some way. So
Of course.
sometimes social media is my route. And then you get into the to seeing people for who they are, and I feel like I don't want friendships to end because of who they voted when they're so brazen to talk on social media about it. It's just, it hurts, and it's like, well, actually, if this is how you feel as a person to your core, then maybe I don't have about staying away from you.
No.
I just wonder if there are, obviously, resetting, taking a walk, reading a book, but also like for those of us who have ADD and just want to have a quick fix.
Yeah.
Are there any tips that you could give mentally unwell people?
Yeah. I mean, and that's something I tell even now a lot of people is you can improve your mental health without seeing a therapist. But much like, what I see a lot is people almost put it in the same boat as like the perpetual I want to lose weight, right? Or the perpetual I want to be rich. Like it just kind of becomes a pipe of like, I just wish I had better mental health. But then you ask, what are you doing? And I don't know. I take a bath.
Live my life.
I don't know. I love the phrase, I don't have time, because my next question is, you're a liar. It's where you choose to put your time, that matters. Right. And so one of the things, especially during COVID, that I got into a habit of doing is, so you can find online, they're easy to find, you can print them off, and it's basically a self-care checklist sort of thing, or a self-care assessment. And so it gets off the idea that self-care is just something like taking a bath or taking a walk. It actually separates it into, I believe, 7 different dynamics. So like spiritual, emotional self-care. It could be things, physical self-care. It can be psychological self-care. So basically what it becomes is like, okay, wow, I'm really good at physical self-care. I go to the gym, I eat right, I take my supplements, but my psychological self-care is terrible. So it gives you kind of a place to focus on things. So that would be my first recommendation to anyone, is just have a real good idea of what your self-care actually is and what you think it is. Because often we always think that we're doing better than we are. And that's just, it's a coping mechanism. We have to get through the day, right? So there's that piece of things. The other thing is, it's frustrating. And I've seen it with social media. Our phones have become such a quick dopamine fix. I'm watching the world become dopamine dependent on quick. I have to have it. I pick up my phone. I mean, you see it in, you go to I go to a kid's concert, everyone is on their phone. Every single, the song's done, pick up the phone. There's a lot of just this quick, I have to watch this reel, I have to watch this thing. And they think they feel better afterwards, but they really don't. So what's kind of becoming more common now is just recommending pick up what they call long dopamine activities or slow dopamine activities. And that is something that's more like slow, but taking a walk, reading a longer book, like doing a craft. It takes sustained time, but the dopamine that you get feels not as like instantaneous. And so people don't generally like to realign to this, but it really is good for our mental health, especially that we train our brains to be okay with a slow dopamine release rather than these quick hits, because it's rewiring our brain and probably not for them the better. So the other thing I recommend to people too is to, especially if you have ADHD, anxiety, is to split your self-care into two different sections. I have my fast self-care, high energy self-care, and I have my low energy self-care. And so like, if you have anxiety, you have ADHD, you're restless, keyed up, that would be when you would do your high energy stuff. So it could be like, I'm going to go punch a punching bag for a while. I'm going to go run 2 laps around the driveway. I'm going to dance. I'm going to put on my VR and do something that's, like a dancing or like a exercise program, or I'm body. And that feels good. It could be cleaning. Some people stress clean. That's definitely me. But that's actually a form of self-care too, because it helps the body kind of dispel some of that high energy. And then there's a low energy stuff. And that's, especially during the summer, like I should work out. I don't have the energy to work out. Some people force it. That's not self-care at that point. That's self-punishment. But the slow stuff would be like, I'm a bath bomb and I'm going to sit in the bathtub and I might be in there for 2 hours. Good for you.
Yeah.
So having a list of both is, I think, ideal, because if you only have one list, like it almost becomes decision fatigue. Plus I should work out, that will make me feel better, isn't always the truth. Sometimes it's, I should work out, but really my brain, my body are not in a state where this is actually going to help me. It's going to hurt me. So
right.
Self-awareness.
Or your body is saying no. It's telling you no,
Yeah.
It doesn't work out, and you're forcing it. And that is obviously not a thing to do. I don't, because I don't want to. I know
There
I
you
should.
Go. Your body said no, thank you.
Yes. My body would, my self-care is either, my quick ones are going to Dollar Tree and finding some viral thing that I saw on the TikToks, and like scoring it, because our Dollar Trees kind of suck. But so if I find it, then I'm like, yes. And it's only $1.25. So, but you never got out of there just at $1.25. I feel like also I've reintroduced thrifting into my life. I used to be an OG thrifter back in the 1900s, and then recently in the last couple of years have started that again, and it's a long journey. You have to have time to score anything. So I enjoy those, but also like just laying in my bed and rotting for a day is not terrible either.
Totally acceptable. As long as it's not all day, every day, you're good.
Yeah, exactly. No, I know myself, busy all isn't good for me. I always say I'm better busy. It's probably not true, but I'd much rather busy than left to my own devices, because then I'm like unmotivated to do anything.
Sure.
So I know there's a balance in there somewhere. I just haven't figured it out. But yeah, no, there's so many. I just loved all of the ideas that you gave us today, but also like, it is fixable. Are ways that you don't have to be going to a person and just making yourself feel uncomfortable and spitting out your deepest, darkest secrets to someone who, wants to help. But if you're going to resist that help, then it's not going to help, right? If you're like, okay, now I'm done, I'm going to go back to my life and live it the way it was,
Yeah.
that's a vicious circle. So
It
getting
is.
into that brain more and doing the EMDR or the neuro scans or something like that could be the way to go. And I just don't think that
Mhm.
we know all of the routes for mental health. That is just not, I don't know if you watch Shrinking on Apple TV.
I also
It,
don't watch TV.
oh, well, look
I'm
at you.
weird.
No, you're not weird.
I watch hockey. That's a stressful experience, though.
Yes, yes, you're evolved. It is called Shrinking on Apple TV, and Jason something, I forget his real name, but he is a therapist and he's been gymming people, that's his name on the show. And so it's where they go do the things that make them, uncomfortable, like, oh, and so it's a cute show, but it's certainly, you know, backfires in the show as well, because it's like, oh yeah, that was uncomfortable, but I did it and I didn't die. But then they try it on their own and it's not this, so
Yeah.
um
It's important to build the
it's
stress tolerance.
yeah, exactly, not just go and face your fears. I'm not jumping off a building because my therapist says that, facing this fear is gonna help my life,
No.
because I'm terrified of heights. And yeah, just wouldn't be good. It'd probably bring up trauma.
EMDR could maybe address it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I appreciate your time so much today. Thank you. Thanks for being patient. Behind the scenes was a little chaotic today. I'm trying to, it's clunky. I'm still clunky in my setup, but hopefully we'll get my shit together here soon. And but I think this is very valuable information. And again, a lot of the topics people I'm talking to selfishly because I want a benefit from it, and God forbid, hopefully someone else does as well, feels something that you said during our time together and just, tries something different, because, the definition of insanity, right, is doing it the same time and the same way and expecting a different result. And so
Agreed.
we have to that cycle and take some breaths and just, remind ourselves that self-care is not selfish.
It's
It
not.
is totally, it's what our body needs. So
Yes, it is.
again, thank you so much. And my neighbors out there listening, you can find Amber Hoff, Hoff. You can find her on LinkedIn. You can find her at, say your website again, Sound Therapy?
Soundmindtherapy.com.
Soundmindtherapy.com.
So I would recommend just hitting me through LinkedIn, because I'm going to be honest, that website not
Yeah,
good.
that's true. Pivoting. You're
Yes.
moving.
I'm in my
You're
MBA program right now, so I'm almost done. So it will be a big pivot soon.
awesome. Well, congratulations and best wishes on that, because, but I'm so glad that you found the answer, even though your doctor, was right.
Don't tell her.
Mum's the word. Believe me,
Yeah.
I only have about 5 listeners anyway. No, just kidding.
I'm sure she's going to be one of those listeners, and I'll get a call of like, what'd you say?
Well, thanks again, neighbors. We'll see you next week. Until then, just be kind, do you, and, be a light when it seems dark, or don't go sit in your bed and rot,
That's
because
all right.
the only expectation is for us to do our best, and sometimes your best is late. All right. Thank you so much, Amber. I
Yeah.
really appreciate it.